Hello, hello, hello. Greetings from colorful Colorado. And I know that, if you've paid any attention before in the past to the eLearn podcast or any of our live office hours or, any of the other success summits, in the past, I came from Bangkok, came from Mexico City, but today and tomorrow I will be coming to you from colorful Colorado, the gateway to the Rockies here in the United States. And since I've told you where I'm sitting, I already see the Gloria Weatherby came in before the starting gun here and said hello from steamy Las Vegas, which is exciting. Anybody who's showing up tonight would love to see where you're from. As we always do, I want to give a few minutes for people to come into the room. It's the top of the hour. Hopefully people will be clicking on their calendar invites and, or the email that they just got recently saying, hey, we're starting this kickoff party, and we'll give them a chance to fill up the room here. Before I do that, or while we do that, I hand the mic over to my longtime colleague, Christian. How are you, sir? Tell us where you're sitting.
I'm sitting in Bogota, Colombia, where it finally started to get some sun after, months and months of rain and traffic and colds. So life is good right now, and life is exciting because we're about to launch the third session of our eLearn Success Series dedicated to EdTech.
Yeah,
so pretty good.
Welcome to Stuart. I believe it's Bulk, Baulk, from Adelaide, Australia. Excellent. Good morning to you, sir. So Chris, I again, while we're letting people come into the room here, remind me, is rainy there? Is because it's rainy season? Because you're like right in the equator region, so everybody probably has in their head like Colombia equals hot and steamy. So what is cold and rainy? Like how's that? What's up with that?
If you add mountains to the equation, I guess you get a picture. There's a lot of really high cities in the south of the region, especially Bogota. Is I don't know that in feet, but it's 2,600 meters. And I don't know, we do have like a constant rains, like it can rain all of a sudden. And there's been really a lot of months of a lot of rain, and now just we're getting some sun. And yes, Gloria, totally agree. We should share the rain with the world, especially right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Today I read a headline here in Colorado. There was a headline that says we broke a heat record, and the heat record is for the highest low that the state has ever had. So the low temperature for the day was the highest low temperature, which is 72 degrees, which I think in Celsius is 24, 22, something like that. Anywho, let's see. So anybody else, we've still got a couple of minutes. We'll let some more people fill into the room here. As you're coming in, please let us know where you're from, where you're listening from. And if you want as well, we're coming into the EdTech session, obviously tomorrow for the eLearn Success Series. Would love to know, what is it that you're, looking forward to learning about, or what is your biggest EdTech problem, or what is the greatest challenge you overcame recently in EdTech? And then also thinking about data science, because a couple of our speakers are going to be talking directly to data and how we can use data better for learning outcomes. So we'd love to hear some of those ideas as well, or challenges, successes, those kinds of things as well. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes here for people to come into the room. Chris, what's the coolest piece of EdTech that you have uncovered this year? Ooh, from Draken Blue from Chihuahua, Mexico. Bienvenidos.
I've been thinking about it because I think ever since I started covering the EdTech space and technology as a whole, you see that the new technology is something that is bold and kind of fancy and futuristic. And of course you think about VR and things about with mobile phones, and there's the whole blockchain situation looming. But I'm personally thinking that, to me, the best tool that I've learned is a tool that allows you to automate a lot of tasks So I feel like a little bit like of those, what do you call those machines that are made of like different parts, and you put like a ball and they connect together, like a Rube,
what is that called? I know exactly what that is.
Rube
Anybody know
Goldberg.
what that's called? What was it, a Gutenberg machine? Is that what it is?
I think
No.
it's a Rube Goldberg machine.
Oh yeah, Rube Goldberg. That's right.
So yeah, that's kind of what you do, and actually you can like grab any app that you think are useful from just a video creator, and then if I need to publish to social media, or if I'm making a course and I have like a doc template, and then I turn that into a course, or if I just need reminders for my calendar. And this tool, or there's actually a ton of tools that are now available that let you connect basically anything that you dream. And I think that has been personally a life changer for my workflow.
Wow.
And my learning. So, and it's not as bold or as like, like it's not like tied in a bow, like VR and so on. But I'm actually excited about those things. You can keep tweaking.
Very cool. So yeah, I love that we are being called out by Stuart here. He says one of the challenges is, in EdTech is trying to keep the audience engaged and especially when they're not engaged. I find this very interesting. We've done our eLearn Success Summit in 2021 was all about student engagement. And I think there's varying degrees. Like one of the most fascinating conversations we had with one of the presenters there, and now her name is failing me. She worked for eLearn Experts, who's now been absorbed into Moodle US. What was her name? She presented with another professor. Anyway, I love their presentation because it talked about how they created essentially 3 outcomes for their students. And, one was a highly engaged, high-touched outcome. The second one was sort of a moderate engaged, some self-work and then some engagement. And then the third outcome or the third path was really like essentially self-directed, and then kind of tie it all together in one meeting or that kind of thing. And everybody self-selected it, and they found that their completion rate for their course went up by 20-30%. Like they started getting to like the 98-99 percentile in completion rates for their courses. It was really, I think, a real insight into the diversity of learner preferences and profiles, and that we all have different thoughts about what we want from class engagement. But then when we look across our learner profiles, that word means so much or has so many different meanings for so many things. Like what is learner engagement for an elementary school class versus what's learner engagement for a compliance, training in a corporation. Totally different things. But I digress. Thank you, Stuart. I really appreciate your comment. You allowed me to get my chops going here. I want to remind everyone that we don't just live here in YouTube. If you're looking at us there, that we actually also encourage everyone to join us over on the eLearn community that is a part of OpenLMS. It's a agnostic, or I guess it's an agnostic community. We don't talk about just OpenLMS technology or services over there. We actually talk about all things e-learning. That could be design, that could be instruction, that could be any piece of EdTech you want to talk about. And if you want to do that, go over to elearnsuccessseries.com/community, and you can get signed up there for free. And we'll be mentioning that ad nauseum today and tomorrow. So again, this time that we have here goes really fast. I already see that we're already 10 minutes in the hour, so let's get moving. So as I always do, I remind everybody why we're here. We've now arrived, as I'm sure everyone who's listening right now knows, we've arrived at the new normal, right? We're never going back. Hybrid, as we heard from the head of the eLearn Guild, or e-learning guilds recently on the eLearn podcast, like hybrid is the word that everybody's dealing with. Schools going in and out, remote work becoming a norm. How do we deliver learning, and where do we deliver learning? This is just the new normal, and not the new normal. This is just normal now. This is what we do. And so learning and office life are not going to be the same. And now that we've kind of lived through these 2 years of pandemic, and we're kind of evolving into or arriving at a place where this is normal, We have to really just kind of make this, online learning, distance learning, remote work. That is what, what we need to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, go ahead, Chris. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No, that is. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
no,
we're just live. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
No, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But I kept thinking of what Stuart was saying and what you were saying on how are we going to use the technology in new ways. And I think that ties us to the other thing that you mentioned, which is the data. And I think other part of the equation right now in the how to make the best use of technology is to think about how the data can help. And that still, I guess it was a very blurry question before, and to a great extent it still is today. But we've seen that the technology itself has learned how to make the data more useful in a more like right away way. So I think to the question of engagement, I think we have personally tried a lot of things, and we've seen others try other things, and sometimes we learn from them. And I think that's another part of this process of how we make data more insightful in a very close term.
Well, I think that you've also hit a key point there is just the support that we give one another in this journey, right? And I know this is something that our leadoff speaker tomorrow, Al Kingsley, he put this on, when we talked in his hot seat, but I'm pretty sure he's going to talk about it tomorrow about what he called signposting, or, raising the flag for people in your institution, in your school, in, your company, whatever, for people like, hey, look, I did figure something else out, something out that works really well, and being able to sort of gather around them and have them, bring that solution out. Or, if being able to provide that as a resource where you're saying, look, I've got these problems, and, have them be able to raise their hand and say, look, I figured that out a while ago, or, hey, I've got a few ideas for you. This is why we have the eLearn community. This is why we host the podcast. This is why we do these events, because ultimately it's, like so many other things, it's a group effort out there. Moving forward though. So, we've got this problem that hybrid is the new normal here now. And excuse me, at the end of the day, Chris and I, we have what we created this solution here, right? This is now the third year that we're running this summit. In 2020 and 2021, we've had something called the eLearn Success Summit, which was a one-time event in 2020 and 2021. This year, we evolved the whole project to be a series of events over the year, because we wanted to test and see, does it make sense for the different verticals within e-learning to come together and have a more focused time together, basically. So we had the design session in February for instructional designers and people interested in design. We had the instructor session in May for people who are delivering learning. This is the EdTech session coming up tomorrow. And then in October, we're going to be having an innovation session to look forward in the short term, right? 12, 24 months about what's coming down the pipe. Wow, I just said a lot of what I was going to say there. So across all of these events and across everything that we've put on the table, there's been one key thing that has been really consistent, is that it doesn't happen without our sponsors. So I want to begin by giving a shout out to them. Obviously, OpenLMS, this is the company that Chris and I now work for, and a huge sponsor and a huge provider of or a huge commitment to keeping information, technology, access, everything open in the world. I mean, OpenLMS is a provider of a Moodle solution. So, we use an open source software to provide our solution, but it goes down to the ethos of the company as well, to be, out there and open, and not only providing solutions, but also getting solutions back from the universe. Our gold sponsor is IntelliBoard, a longtime partner of OpenLMS. Have Tanya Riney speaking this year, tomorrow, about storytelling and data. I'll talk about her later, a little bit more later. But IntelliBoard, their latest product they're out there with is IntelliBoard Next. And I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about that from Tonya. Maybe not. I don't know. But I was really excited to hear about it when we spoke with the CEO, Anatoly, the founder of IntelliBoard. And, it's really just this platform that you can kind of connect any data service to. Our silver sponsors, iSpring, Respondus, and Class. So iSpring is a content a content creation company, among other things. Respondus is a an online proctoring service. And one of their staff will be speaking to us about taking a fresh look at proctoring this year. And then Class is one of our newest sponsors. And Class is actually really interesting because it's a learning management system that actually sits on top of Zoom. Zoom has now become synonymous with video conferencing, with connecting virtually. And the founder of Class is actually the founder of Blackboard. And so, he looked at that opportunity that everybody was using Zoom over the pandemic and, created a whole new company called Class, and they are growing by leaps and bounds. And it's a really exciting platform to be dealing with. And then finally, our bronze sponsors are Open Sesame and Sumati. Sumati is also a proctoring solution, the one that OpenLMS has worked with in the past successfully. I believe we delivered remind me what it was in Colombia. It was some national exam where we had like 65,000 students online at the same time or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you remember what that was?
Which is kind of like the SATs of Colombia. Okay. So at the last year of school, over 30,000, it was a bunch of students, and they were using a system supported by OpenLMS, a couple of partners, and Sumadi as well. It went pretty well. It became a pretty good example of what can be done about testing, like massive testing in Latin America.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that summary. And then Open Sesame, another content provider, a huge content provider that is out there and available for everyone who, if you have learning needs or you have content that you need for your learning, you're more than welcome to go check out Open Sesame. But again, big thank you to all of them. And then finally, eLearn Magazine is our media sponsor. And eLearn Magazine is merging with LMS Pulse here in the very near future, which is the news service that Cris and I have run for the last 10 years or so. And really, you go there for not only like latest updates on what's happening in EdTech and data science, but it's great case studies about what's happened at learning institutions, about how they've solved problems and how they have overcome challenges. It is watching market trends about what's going up, what maybe is not in favor anymore, what's evolving, etc. So I encourage everybody to go over and check out eLearn Magazine as well. Just a final note before we kind of move into the rest of our session here. We're going to be giving away some all access passes, and so if you've taken the effort, in the middle of July, which I guess in North America and much of Europe, this is sort of summertime, summer break, whatever. But I know, Stuart, this is kind of, I believe you might still be in school actually right now, or you might still be in session. We're going to be giving away some all access passes. So stick around. Oh, as a matter of fact, on our agenda here is, we're going to give away our first two all access passes. And the way that we do this is that we ask a question, and then the first person to provide that answer in the chat, we give you the all access pass. And so our question today is, for the first one, is what is the name of the EdTech unicorn that one of our speakers is from for this session? So an EdTech unicorn, that means it's got a valuation over $1 billion. And one of the CEO, the founder, is speaking tomorrow. And so encourage you to go over that, elearnsuccessseries.com/calendar. And you can see all of our speakers to answer that question. Chris. Oh, sorry, you're typing. So we started this conversation. We started this little session, this kickoff party off, talking about ourselves. But I want to do a kind of a formal introduction about who I am. My name's Ladek. You can find me almost all the time on the eLearn podcast. I am the principal of eLearning advocacy here at OpenLMS. I'm also an adjunct instructor at American University in Washington, D.C. as well. So I like to throw that out just to let people know that I actually do teach at the university level as well. I'm in an academic institution. I get all of the emails from the dean and the provost and all of these other things. And, I went through the challenge of moving from Blackboard to Canvas and relearning a new system and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just putting it there that Cris and I don't just kind of talk, from the outside. We're not armchair quarterbacks, as we like to say here in the United States. We actually do this stuff and share both the pain and the joys of delivering education online. And so it's one of the reasons why I love hosting these things as well. Cris, why don't you give a little bit more detail about your background?
All right. Well, hi, everyone. Again, I'm Cris, or Christian Duque. I'm a digital, I always forget my role, digital content and community strategist for OpenLMS. But that basically means that anything that has to do with creating content in a very broad term for the company and for our sponsors or partners. I love consulting on business strategies. And to be honest, I am not as on the two grounds as you are. I'm not a professor of any kind, but I would just say that having sort of a bit of a step up, like looking into the systems of learning, both the technology outcomes and the educational outcomes for a system is something that I'm really excited about as an economist. So yeah, I do events like this. I help with thinking on a content strategy that actually performs. And when it comes to organizations and educations, I love to help them discuss what they need to do in order to reach out and get more out of their efforts. It's funny because I want to go back to Stuart's first message because it is a struggle. I mean, no matter how much you know, and I think we've learned a lot from events like this, from interacting with people, from the community itself, and yet you cannot give like a full answer. It really depends on each case, on each process, and I really love to just get into the weeds of all of this.
Well, one of the things it's funny that you bring that up, that even when you think you're an expert, all you have to do is start having conversations with others in other organizations or institutions, and you realize that there really are 1,000,001 ways to approach each of these situations. That kind of brings me to think about another one of our speakers. His name is Josh Novell, that for tomorrow, and Josh is going to be talking about how Warner Music Group is a no LMS learning ecosystem. And so that's really, it's, I don't want to give away any of his talk, but it kind of blew me away when he even proposed talking about it, because we're so focused on learning management systems and those kinds of things, that to have someone come in and say, look, we don't even use an LMS and we deliver all of these learning outcomes for people. That's pretty powerful stuff. So, all right, before we dive into the speakers, I just want to remind everyone, about how does this, how's the series work? So the series is, we've set this up so that you can get as much information out of it as you want, or as little. It's really how much you want to participate in order to get value out of the series. The series takes place over 4 sessions. It's kind of interesting to be talking about it now since we're in the 3rd session. But we had a design session in February. Again, reminder, that was all about instructional design. We had way to go, Stuart. Just walk down the list. So the design session was all about instructional design. We had everything from one of our good friends, talking about, creating animations in PowerPoint and like real low tech solutions to creating great animations for your lectures, your presentations for your students, to people talking about the adding method, to people talking about, deep design and those kinds of things. And then in May, we had the instructor session, which was, a great roundup of, what does it mean to be delivering learning and how do we do it better? And of course, the first thing that pops into my mind is our keynote presenter there in the very front, very first presenter, who brought out animals and snakes, turtles and snakes. He didn't bring out an axolotl, but it was fantastic and really reminded us about, what does it take to engage students from an instructor possession. And then, of course, this is our EdTech session. It's going to be happening tomorrow about data science. And then our innovation session is going to be in October. The real critical information that I want to put on the table here is that we're going to be live tomorrow. And then all of the information, all of the presentations are going to be, recorded in real time. And then they'll be available to you for 24 hours. Once those 24 hours up, though, that we put them in what we call our all access pass vault. And they're only available to people with all access passes. So it's an important opportunity to win one of those tonight, as I think Stuart just did. And that gives you access to not only, tomorrow's session, but it also gives you access to the design session, the instructor session, the innovation session in October, and then also all of the sessions that we've done in the past years as well. So I think there's something like 100 or 110 speakers, because in 2021 we had 72 speakers alone. It's a ridiculous amount of EdTech content and online learning content. So let's see, what else am I supposed to? So also attached with the summit as well, or the series as well, is our eLearn community. So if you haven't already, I've already mentioned it once before, but go over to elearnsuccessseries.com/community, and that will take you to our community, which has over 2,000 members in it. And then that's about all I want to say about that at this stage. Christian, anything that you want to add that you've experienced over the last 4 or 5 sessions that you think is important to put on the table for people?
Yeah, well, I think you pointed out at the beginning that our goal this year to split one big session into focused elements was to try to keep the conversation active, try to have a community that sort of could join at any time, and it wouldn't feel lost, or it wouldn't feel that it's missing out. And looking backward, it is for us a way to continue to reward the community as best as we can. And also, we're talking about technology and we're talking about data. And for us, or for me, the more we engage, the more data points we can collect to really understand what you guys truly need ultimately. What are your pain points? What are the questions that we may start trying to draw resources towards to figure it out? Because I know many of the answers, there's a wealth of technology, of models and so on, but it's clear that the more we learn, the more answers remain. And that's sort of the wave we want to be.
Absolutely, 100%. So before we move on to start talking about the experts that we have for the EdTech session here, I want to do our second giveaway for an all access pass. We'll throw it up there on the stage, which is, who can tell me what the difference is between an LMS, an LXP, and an LRS is? Lots of L acronyms. Actually, and you know what? They're not actually acronyms, they're initialisms, as I've learned in years past.
Wait. Can you explain that one? What's the difference?
Sure. An acronym is a,
yeah,
it creates a new word. So it's a word that you actually use. And now, of course, my brain is failing me to provide you as an example of what a true acronym is. But an initialism is just when you take like LMS, and you say the letters LMS and LXP and LRS. So that's an initialism. Interesting.
Oh, I get it. Just so you kind of spell out the letters.
Exactly.
Right.
Whereas like laser is an actual acronym, right? So laser actually stands for what? Light something 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 something. It's actually there you go. Great. So why don't we pull up our presenters on the screen and let's walk through them.
Boom.
Shazam. So we're going to start off tomorrow with the executive director of OpenLMS, Phil Miller. He'll be on the stage with me for about 10 minutes. He's always fun to have. And, he's going to be, kind of putting, setting the stage for what EdTech means for not only OpenLMS, but for, the art, like I said earlier, our ethos of being open. How do we work together? How do technologies connect together? And how do we look to the future in this? Our kickoff speaker, is Al Kingsley, who is the CEO of NetSupport. Al, we've had Al on the eLearn hot seat before. He's an absolutely fantastic speaker. He's been around for something like 30 years talking about EdTech, all things EdTech. NetSupport has clients all over the world. He's based in the UK, and he's going to be talking about how we've adapted to the challenges that we've faced over the past couple of years and what's in store for the future in terms of institutional support, in terms of the technology that we use, and in terms of how do we get the most out of it. Our next speaker after Al is Felix Oswald, who was the answer to our first question today. He is the founder of GoStudent, which is the only EdTech unicorn in Europe that we know of, based in Vienna. And he's going to be talking about AI and the future of EdTech. So this is a really forward-looking individual. I really don't know. I haven't seen this presentation, so what he's going to put on the table. But I'm very interested to see with someone with this kind of venture capital, how are they spinning it? How are they building it? How are they moving it forward? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, well, there is a very interesting interview that I had the privilege to have with Felix, where he talks about, and it's funny because I think there is a role for this kind of really large startups, unicorns, and it's that sometimes as an industry, we get like too stuck into old ways or things that we don't really know, but we are kind of afraid to tweak or to mess with. And this kind of great ideas sort of come with their own energy, with their home. And a lot of people just see it and it just says, yeah, of course, this makes sense. And I think in the pandemic and all these huge things that happen around the world and put everything in motion are really opportunities to sort of find these gaps. And history shows that these times are like places where organizations like Philips just can jump in and add a new set of rules that sort of pull these new ways of working, new ways of interacting. Like I think the way we learn now, the way we work now, has changed a lot for a lot of people, and a lot of people are better off in ways that they didn't know before. So it's and the story behind all of this process is really interesting in the case of Felix, because he kind of built this with his mentor, with his tutor, to serve himself in a way and all tutors. And that's also a very, very interesting. So I'm really looking forward to see this story.
Yeah, it's going to be a great presentation. Thanks for that. Thanks for that background, that color on that. After Felix, I believe we have, is it Irene? No, it's Mehdi. And again, another talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence, but specifically in the case of talent management. And so Mehdi comes from the company Open Sesame, is one of our sponsors, but it's guaranteed won't be a sales pitch, promise. But he's going to be talking specifically about, when you're thinking about the HR role, when you're thinking about how do you, do onboarding, that's an e-learning moment for many people, like onboarding into a new corporation. How do we facilitate that process, create it more, make it more engaging, and also look at innovative ways to do that. Gloria will be happy to post the e-learning community page website in the chat as well. Yeah, I'm sure that Christian will take care of that real quick here. After Mehdi, we are going to have Irene Koulianos from Vector VMS. One second. And what's going to be really interesting about Irene's conversation is that she isn't what you would consider a typical ed technologist. And you can see here from the title of her presentation is about how I DIY'd it, building a functional learning program from within. She at Vector VMS, they actually had one of their clients approach them and said, look, we need a learning platform. We're not sure where to go. And they, worked with them to custom build a solution from a couple of different pieces and a couple of different platforms. And I'm really excited to hear her story about how that worked out, because that's what so many of us do, right? We find different solutions that work, and then we figure out how to put them together. After Irene, we're going to have a gentleman named Jim Johnson.
Josh.
Oh, you know what? Josh is next. I didn't have him in my other list here. Sorry. So Josh Novell, he's the Director of Digital Learning Solutions at Warner Music Group. Again, he's going to be talking about the no LMS ecosystem. This is a pre-recorded session because Josh, unfortunately, isn't going to be able to join us tomorrow live. He's going to pop into the chat, but he's not going to be in a place where he can join us live. And so I've already heard his talk, and I got to tell you, I don't know, absolutely. I think it's next level in that, it's a different way to think about how does learning happen and what are the different pieces that you can use to facilitate learning and interactions with your staff, with your students, and those kinds of things. After Josh, I believe it's Jim Johnson. I hope that's correct. Yeah. So Jim Johnson is a senior product manager at a company called People Fluent, and he's going to talk about how compliance training fits into a modern learning strategy. And so he's going to be talking about, how do you use those pieces to create, a modern delivery of compliance training that isn't just, a big snooze button, really, at the end of the day. Stuart's thought about how do you keep people engaged. Sorry, Chris, did you want to add something? Or
that's our brother. We're OpenLMS. We're part of this big company, LTG, which owns a couple of e-learning companies, and it's fun and it's good to have our siblings represent.
Absolutely.
So Jim, People Fluent, Vector VMS.
Absolutely. We like doing that. So, oh boy, I hope I don't pronounce her name incorrectly. Rebecca Schlatke?
Schkate.
You know what? She told us how to pronounce it, and now I am so embarrassed. It's like Scotty or something like that. It's like Scotty. I'm pretty sure it's Scotty. We'll have it right tomorrow for Rebecca, and I really apologize. I'm completely embarrassed right now. Rebecca is actually taking the place of one of her colleagues, Ari Sowers, kind of last minute here, but she is going to be talking about a fresh look at online proctoring. And again, no sales pitches here, but it's going to be talking about, what are the different options that you can do when you're doing remote learning to make sure that you have assessments that are verified and, that you can certify. And so I'm very interested to see what they put on the table in terms of what does it mean, a fresh look after the pandemic. After Rebecca, we have I believe our final speaker, yes, which is Tonya Riney. I'm not going to lie. I love Tonya. I've had her on the podcast. She's been a part of the summits in the past. Chris and I have been working as partners with IntelliBoard for, 5-6 years. If I go back full history, it's more like a decade. She's absolutely fantastic. She's been around forever, but she knows how to tell the story. And watching her and IntelliBoard evolve over the last decade has just been a fantastic story. And her presentation is about storytelling with data. Obviously, IntelliBoard is a data management, analytics platform, and so she just has incredible insight after working with literally thousands of clients around this topic. And so hers is definitely a talk to not be missed. Then, Chris, we have like we did with the instructor session, we have kind of a special treat, which is sesiones de español.
Right.
In sessions, it'll be in Spanish. So take us away. Tell us about who will be speaking on January 21st or July 21st. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I had the pleasure to get replies from these wonderful people. There are three companies who are kind of on the top. There is this ranking of tech startups for regions that's by this organization, Holon IQ. Very well respected, at least according to Google ratings. um, so three of the speakers are people who are actually setting out new technologies in motion that are based in Latin America, which is always a great thing to see. So the first one here is Javier Chan from Processing Labs. Processing Labs is a virtual laboratories company or simulations, which it's kind of the closest thing to a game, to an actual video game within a platform, within an LMS. Um, and a good thing, but I'm not sure if Javier is going to touch this, but it is clear that these new ways of created, well, they're not really new, but these approaches to technology, which are more interactive, which give a lot more open for problem solving and decision making on the part of students, uh, still have a really great potential, and not just beyond their original space, which is like STEM education. So maybe a lot of learners right now should be interacting on physics or chemistry classroom with those kinds of laboratories. Maybe not as many, I don't know. I mean, I'm expecting that a lot of students right now would know of these laboratories for STEM education. But the field is continuously growing. And there's a couple of companies, not just processing labs, who are sort of leading this charge in Latin America and around the world. Then we have Manuel Sotomayor. He's like our representative from academia. He's the director of academic quality at Centrum, which is the business school of the PUCP, one of the top universities in Peru. And Centrum MBA is also one of the top MBA schools in Latin America. And I see MBAs, these kinds of business schools, as sort of the places where educational technology kind of trickles into a university. Does that make sense? Because they respond to these needs of changing workplaces and innovation and technology. So he's going to kind of like me to sort of take a step back of what's happening on the day-to-day and providing, I don't know, insight of what's happening, how are modern schools in Latin America thinking about technology and education. So hopefully it'll be like very interesting discussion with Manuel. Next, we have Anabela Laya. She's a Colombian entrepreneur, and she's the CEO of Acredita, a digital batch platform. And her talk is about Learning 4.0, skill development through digital experiences. And it kind of ties to a lot of things that we've been mentioning, and is the idea of being able to, I don't know, like, for example, with Josh Noel, I think one of the examples or one of the lessons or messages is we don't need to keep pulling students into our platforms, into our ecosystems. We can right now just understand where they hang out and just go there, which has been possible for a long time. But now we can talk about not just letting them go outside our LMS, our LXP, and just go learn, but to actually be able to know what's happening and reward them for learning wherever they are. And that's just one of the many potentials that sort of the Learning 4.0 brings us. And to wrap things up, a very forward-looking session with Sibile de la Chapelle from Talisys. That's a Mexican company that's going to talk about future trends and tech technologies for education, and sort of what's the role for LATAM. So has this kind of a wake up call kind of vibe, which I think is good because we're all about action here, hopefully at least. So hopefully this final session will wrap up basically what we think we can do, how can we make the best use of technology, how can we make attendees and ourselves take action from all of what we see. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really cool, and I'm really excited about the fact that we're able to now this is the second session where we've had several presenters that are going to be presented in Spanish. It just allows us to reach out in a different way to a whole different community, because nothing's quite like being able to talk and present in your native language. So that's fantastic, and these are absolutely top-notch speakers. So very cool stuff. All right, so we're kind of coming to the end here of our kickoff party here, and so I just want to, everyone who's here, you should be. I'm assuming already that you are registered for the event. If you're not, go over to eLearnSuccessSeries.com, sign up for free tickets so that you can join the show tomorrow. You'll get the email with all the links tomorrow morning. Actually, I think it'll probably go out with the links, about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then a reminder that the entire event tomorrow is free, and all of the sessions are recorded, and then we quickly put them up so that they're available throughout 24 hours. But then after those 24 hours, we do shut it down and we put them in what we call our all access pass vault. And then, you have the opportunity to buy an all access pass, which I'll talk about in just a second. And then finally, there is a huge network of other learning professionals, designers, instructional technologists, EdTech nerds, teachers, professors, whatever label that you want to have in this education space, over on the eLearn community. And so, as we have in the chat, if you look up the chat there, go to eLearnSuccessSeries.com/community, and that will take you over to the community, and you can join us over there. And then, Cris and I are always around. You can always just email us. We love talking. This is what we do for a living. So just a reminder that, with that all access pass, if you win one tonight, which, we've already given a couple away, or you decide to purchase one, it's not only just the tomorrow session that you'll have access to, it's the design session, it's the instructor session, it's the innovation session that we're going to have in October, but it's also all of the talks and all the presentations that we had in 2020 and 2021. It's well over 100 presentations there that you'll have access to, all relevant, all fantastic. And so I hope you join us in that way. And then finally, let's give away our last two all access passes for anyone who can tell me who the last two guests were on the e-learning podcast. If you go over to the e-learn podcast, we're coming up very quickly. I know that we've recorded 110 sessions on the eLearn podcast. And not that many published yet, but it's a huge resource, the eLearn podcast, of talking with people from literally around the world. There's everywhere from, a woman in the middle of the Congo who stood up an LMS during the pandemic to, the latest and greatest technology and, forward thinkers in instructional design, forward thinkers in teaching, in delivery, and then obviously lots and lots of EdTech nerds as well. So lots of talks about video and lots of talk about how do we overcome these challenges that we all face every day. Cris, let's bring it home by thanking once again our sponsors. Just a reminder for everybody, our sponsors, OpenLMS, that's the company that Cris and I now work for. Huge thank you to IntelliBoard, our gold sponsor. They provide a data analytics platform that is essentially ubiquitous these days around the EdTech scene. iSpring, Class, and Respondus are our silver sponsors. iSpring is a content provider for learning. Class is a new learning management system that sits on top of Zoom. And looks and tastes and smells just like Zoom, but adds an incredible amount of functionality around it. And Respondus is an online proctoring platform. And then our two bronze sponsors, Sumati, which is also another online proctoring platform, and Open Sesame, which is another content provider. That said, Cris, anything that you'd like to add before we wrap up this party? Oh, I think I caught him while he was putting something into the chat. Maybe you can't hear me anymore. Anyway, folks, with that, we will wrap up our kickoff party here today. Tomorrow, July 20th, our EdTech session starts at noon Eastern Standard Time in the United States. Oh, back. I think you're offline there for a second.
Yeah.
It's just proof we're actually flying live without a wire right here. This is how it works. This is how everyone, what I love about that is that everyone now is used to what it's like to have the internet glitch on you. I'm sure it will happen at least once tomorrow. But Cris, any parting words before we wrap up the session today?
Well, should we announce the winners now, or the last thing?
Oh, I think, did we lose you again, Cris?
Oh, no, nothing really. We want to create a session that answers questions. So we are. That's really what we want the most, questions from you that you can ask our speakers, ourselves, hopefully during the live session, or really at any time, either on the videos on the community. We are really looking forward to spark more conversations with these kinds of events. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the session.
Well, we definitely have Stuart as one of our AAP winners, and I think that Gloria, you definitely need to have one of our All Access passes as well for coming and showing up and giving us some comments. Cris really wanted to. He really wanted to have his. You really wanted to have his congratulation lighting going on there. So please, Stuart and Gloria, send a note to Cris over there, and he will set you up with an All Access pass. And we'll see everyone tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, New York time, to kick off the EdTech session. Thanks so much.